Welcome to G-Fun Facts Online. Today, we're exploring a story that sits at the intersection of tragedy and incredible hope. Imagine a species so rare, only two are left on the entire planet. They are both female, a mother and daughter, and they represent the very last of their kind. This isn't science fiction, it's the reality for the northern white rhinoceros. But against all odds, science is mounting an audacious rescue mission, a high-tech plan to pull a species back from the very brink of extinction, using a technology many of us associate with human fertility clinics, in vitro fertilization, or IVF. This is the story of how we might just save the rhino. The decline of the northern white rhino was terrifyingly fast. In the 1960s, around 2,000 of these magnificent animals roamed the grasslands of Central Africa. But relentless poaching for their horns, combined with civil unrest and habitat loss, decimated their population. By the 1980s, only 15 were left. By 2008, they were declared extinct in the wild. The last few survivors were in zoos. In 2009, 4 were moved from a zoo in the Czech Republic to the Ol Pejeta Conservancy in Kenya, hoping a more natural environment would encourage them to breed. It didn't work. In 2018, the last male, named Sudan, died, and with him, any hope for natural reproduction vanished. Today, only 2 northern white rhinos remain, Najin and her daughter Fatu. They live under 24-hour armed guard, a poignant symbol of what we stand to lose. To make matters worse, neither of them can carry a pregnancy. Najin is older and has health issues, and Fatu has problems with her uterus. It seemed like the end of the line. But in the face of this certain extinction, a global coalition of scientists and conservationists formed the BioRescue project. Their mission is as bold as it is complex. Use cutting-edge reproductive technologies to create a new generation of northern white rhinos. The core plan revolves around IVF. Scientists would harvest eggs from the last female, Fatu, fertilize them in a lab using frozen sperm from long-dead males, and then transfer the resulting embryos into surrogate mothers from the closely related southern white rhino subspecies. This is an incredible challenge. A rhino's reproductive anatomy is a puzzle. Their ovaries are located almost 2 meters deep inside their bodies, making any procedure extremely difficult and risky. Before they could even think about using the priceless northern white rhino eggs, the BioRescue team had to prove the concept could work at all. For years, they perfected their techniques, borrowing knowledge from equine reproduction, since horses are one of the closest domestic relatives to rhinos. Then, in January 2024, came the breakthrough announcement. The team had achieved the world's first successful IVF pregnancy in a rhino. They created a southern white rhino embryo in the lab and transferred it into a southern white rhino surrogate. The pregnancy was confirmed, and for 70 days, they watched as a healthy male fetus developed. Tragically, the surrogate mother later died from an infection caused by flooding in her enclosure, and the pregnancy was lost. But while the outcome was heartbreaking, the scientific milestone was undeniable. It was the proof of concept they needed. Thomas Hildebrandt, the head of the BioRescue project, called it a, quote, huge step. It proved that a lab-created embryo could implant and grow, giving the team the confidence to move forward with the northern white rhino embryos. So how does this incredible process actually work? Let's break down the science. It starts with a procedure called ovum pickup, or OPU. This is the delicate harvest of oocytes, or immature eggs, from Fatu. The rhino is put under anesthesia, and a team uses a long, specialized probe guided by ultrasound to find the ovaries. A very thin needle is then passed through the rectal wall to the ovaries to aspirate the fluid containing the eggs. It's an incredibly precise and difficult procedure. Once the eggs are collected, they are flown to a world-leading lab in Italy called Avantea. There, they are placed in a special culture, allowing them to mature. After maturation comes fertilization. Because the frozen rhino sperm don't swim very well, scientists use a technique called intracytoplasmic sperm injection, or ICSI. This involves selecting a single, healthy sperm and injecting it directly into the mature egg with a microscopic needle. It's a way of bypassing the natural process to dramatically increase the chances of fertilization. If fertilization is successful, the embryo is cultured in the lab for several days until it develops into a blastocyst, a tiny bundle of cells ready for implantation. These precious northern white rhino embryos are then cryopreserved, frozen in liquid nitrogen, where they can be stored safely. As of early 2025, the BioRescue project has successfully created 38 pure northern white rhino embryos waiting for their chance at life. Since Najin and Fatu cannot carry a pregnancy, the entire project relies on surrogate mothers from the southern white rhino population. Thankfully, the southern white rhino is a conservation success story. They were once on the brink, but dedicated efforts have brought their numbers back to a near-threatened status. This means there is a healthy population available to help their northern cousins. Selecting and preparing these surrogates is critical. They must be healthy and have a proven reproductive history. The embryo transfer itself is another hurdle. It's a non-surgical procedure where the thawed embryo is carefully loaded into a catheter, which is guided through the surrogate's cervix and deposited into her uterus. While IVF offers a lifeline, the BioRescue project is also looking further into the future to solve another critical problem: genetic diversity. All the calves born from this first wave of IVF would come from fetus eggs and a very limited supply of frozen sperm. This small gene pool would leave the new population vulnerable to disease. To solve this, scientists are turning to stem cell technology. The goal is to create artificial gametes, that is, lab-grown eggs and sperm, from the preserved skin cells of deceased northern white rhinos. This could resurrect the genetic diversity of a dozen or more different individuals, creating a much healthier and more robust population. In a major step forward, the team has already succeeded in creating primordial germ cell-like cells, the precursors to eggs and sperm, from northern white rhino stem cells. This is a world first for a large mammal and a critical milestone toward eventually producing fully functional lab-grown gametes. The work being done for the northern white rhino has implications for all 5 of the world's rhino species, all of which face threats. The black, Javan, and Sumatran rhinos are all critically endangered. The Sumatran rhino, in particular, is on the very verge of extinction. The technologies being pioneered by BioRescue could one day be used to bolster the genetic diversity of these small, fragmented populations as well. This brings us to a complex ethical minefield. Should humans be doing this? Is it right to play God and intervene in this way? Proponents argue that we have a moral obligation to fix the damage we've caused. The northern white rhino isn't dying out from natural causes. It was pushed to the edge by human poaching and conflict. Using our ingenuity to save them, they argue, is not an unnatural act, but a necessary correction. However, skeptics raise valid concerns. The immense cost of these high-tech projects could, they argue, be better spent on protecting species that aren't quite at the breaking point yet. There's a fear that the glamour of de-extinction could divert funds from essential on-the-ground conservation, like habitat protection and anti-poaching patrols. There's also the question of animal welfare. These are invasive procedures with no guarantee of success. And what about the animals that are born? Can a rhino calf born in a lab and raised by a surrogate of a different subspecies ever truly be a wild animal, with the instincts needed to survive? The story of the northern white rhino is a powerful one. It's a testament to human ingenuity and a refusal to accept extinction as an inevitability. But it is also a profound cautionary tale. The fact that we have to resort to such extraordinary, expensive, and difficult measures is an indictment of our failure to be proper stewards of the planet. These technologies are incredible tools, but they are not a silver bullet. They cannot replace the fundamental work of protecting habitats, stopping the illegal wildlife trade, and addressing the root causes of biodiversity loss. The future of the northern white rhino, and so many other species, depends not just on a scientific miracle, but on our collective will to create a world where they don't need a miracle to survive.